What is a dirty business tactic that you know, and everyone should be aware of it? Part 3. Rental companies, specifically for vacation. They will say, a certain condo or house is available on their website, but then when you call, they'll say, it is now unavailable, or just got booked very recently. Then they'll try and show you a different place, which is like $50 more a night, banking on the desperation of the tourists, to just say, F it, and rent it. If thou art in Sweden, and want to start a company, don't pay for anything. It's totally free, via verksamhet.se, and skattavirket.se, and anyone that tries to make you pay, for handling paperwork, or something to do with the startup administration, is probably a scam. This happened to my friend, that lost about 2,000 kronas. Many nursing home communities require a massive deposit to move in, mid-six figures. They earn interest on that deposit, but that's not the dirty part. The dirty part is, in the fine print. Marketing staff will tell you that the deposit is returned once the leased unit is relinquished. And that's technically true. But what they don't tell you is that the contract defines relinquishment as whenever the marketing staff fills that unit again. So, if grandma dies or moves out, and her apartment is vacated, marketing staff will intentionally not fill that unit again for years at a time, to keep earning interest on the deposit. This results in countless retirees and their surviving families becoming financially destitute, as they wait for some leasing agent to feel like giving them back their money. I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and there's a lot of scummy stuff done by that company, but the most common is called a wrap slap. Basically, you can get 4 types of coverage through Enterprise on your rental: damage waiver, DW, covering any damage to the car; supplemental liability policy, SLP, covering damage to any third party that you cause in the car, for example, someone else's car, a fire hydrant, etc. Personal accident insurance, PAI, covering medical bills up to $1 million, and roadside assistance protection, RAP, basically, Enterprise PATs for AAA, or whatever roadside assistance you might need. Now, most people have all of these things covered, and choose not to take any coverage, preferring to use what they already pay for. The DW is about $20 per day. If you get all coverage, you're looking at up to $100 per day. What you need to understand is that every employee at Enterprise is in sales, but they don't make commission. Everyone there has sales targets to hit in order to simply keep their jobs, and the company turns a blind eye to the practice of wrap slapping. Essentially, you tell the customer the total of their rental, including taxes and surcharges, is X, when it is really Y, and you include the coverage on their bill, without them knowing or consenting. Some people will argue, and the employee will say they can work in a discount, and will take the coverage away. Insider tip: any Enterprise employee can discount up to $100, without manager approval. This sounds bad already, but it gets worse. The management, as well as other sales reps, train you on who to wrap slap: the elderly, people with a language barrier, people who've never rented before. DR, Enterprise Rent-A-Car employees hide unwanted insurance coverage on rentals in the tax, and typically prey on the elderly, or people who don't speak English. All of your natural labels on food are a scam. They mean nothing, and have almost zero regulation on how they're used. Then there's organic produce, which has been proven time and time again to be nutritionally indistinguishable from non-organic counterparts. Organic farms are not better for the environment. There are simply good farm practices and bad farm practices. Plenty of non-organic farms have better and safer practices than many organic farms. It's all basically a scam to sell overpriced food to wealthy people who've bought into a lifestyle that has been heavily marketed to make them think their purchases make them a better, healthier person. I work in agriculture. I'm a researcher for a university, but I've worked on non-organic and organic operations. I don't want to make blanket statements, so I won't say that all organic farms are this way or that way. It depends on the management. However, from my experiences and research, organic farms are heavy wasters of resources. I worked on one organic farm that was the pinnacle of the eat, grow local community and movement. Everyone in the area knew our farm, and we sold produce at farmers markets and local organic groceries. Our farm wasted hundreds of man-hours, water, soil, and other resources to produce plants that simply weren't as tough. We'd lose huge chunks of our produce to insect pests and diseases that could be easily managed on a non-organic farm. just to produce a vegetable that feeds a person exactly the same. We used more inputs to produce lower quality crops, which we then charged triple for and sold out at the farmers' markets. We threw out hundreds of pounds of perfectly good cucumbers, because they had bite marks from cucumber beetles on them, and the organic stores wouldn't sell a marked cucumber. Our grow tunnels would get infested and we could throw down powdered clay and other repellents, but they hardly worked. If we pulled out stunted potatoes, they'd be sold as gourmet baby potatoes at $5 a pound. Some of our produce was beautiful, but a ton was crap, and even more was thrown out. Organic farms also use a shit ton of plastic to cover the ground and manage weeds, since they can't use herbicides. The edges of the plastic get pushed deep in the ground, and we could never dig it all out. The earth gets filled with plastic, a bunch of it would end up in the river, and the rest of the plastic would get torn up after harvest, and put in a landfill. There's also the issue of livestock. Organic, antibiotic-free livestock can never be treated for infections with medicine, because their value drops way down, as they could no longer be sold as organic. If you have to treat a dying animal, you might as well just send it straight to market after, because it's not useful in your herd. Animals also weren't vaccinated against everything they should have been, because a lot of the people buying our meat were anti-vaccine. This meant our animals got sick and then we made them suffer, waiting to see if they'd get better on their own, so we wouldn't have to treat them with antibiotics or other banned medicines. Some of them got better. Some of them we treated, and immediately sold at a fraction of the price to market. And some of them we waited too long, and they died. Horribly inhumane and unethical. Withholding medicine from sick animals, so people can pat themselves on the back when they eat an antibiotic-free burger. Seriously, F organic and the managers who sell the lifestyle and pander to the rich and ignorant. I bet there are a lot of great organic farms out there that are responsible and productive, but being organic has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's all about management. TLDR, organic food is a scam to sell overpriced, often lower quality food, at a greater cost to society and our natural resources. Organic equals higher quality food, safer practices, humane treatment of animals, or environmentally friendlier practices. Gaslighting. People in the corporate world will deny and make stuff up. Save everything. Write emails, you don't have to just, so there is a record of your actions. Be meticulous in covering your ass, so, when the day comes, that they try to, inevitably, throw you under the bus, for their own mistakes, you can say, yeah, but on this date, we communicated this. When buying a used car, definitely get the Carfax. But also definitely, and I mean definitely, take the car to a dealership, to have a pre-purchase inspection done. So for instance, if you're wanting to buy a Prius, take the car in question to a Toyota dealer. Call the service department and make the appointment, they will know what you're talking about. If the seller refuses, walk away. Even if they agree, the dealer may find significant problems. It's an insurance that costs you about $200, but can save you thousands. If you have a moment, read my personal story below. I live in Chicago, and have a long commute to the suburbs, so, wanted to buy a used Prius. I found a good price, $15K, on Craigslist, for a 2-year-old Prius. Seller gave me the VIN for Carfax, which checked out clean. I asked if I could test drive it, and take it to a nearby Toyota dealer, which he happily agreed. After sitting in the waiting room for over an hour, the mechanic comes in and says, "Sir, are you really thinking about buying this car?" He then gives me a laundry list of significant problems, including 2 frame bending accidents, and extensive electrical issues. He explained that people will buy totaled cars, then do repairs themselves, or have friends do repairs, so that Carfax is not alerted. I think they call these rebuilt titles. When I brought it back to the seller, he did not deny it, he just laughed and said, "Someone else will buy it," and he's probably right. Die had cost me $200, but the inspection saved me $15,000. I still see the seller's ads all the time on ZL, he always has multiple cars for sale. Some he outright labels, rebuild title. Others, he doesn't. So, I imagine, they are all rebuilds. Carfax is not enough. Get the inspection. TLDR, don't trust Carfax, bring a used car to a dealer, for pre-purchase inspection. If you are having a party at a restaurant, it is very common practice for the owners, to put a lot of extra bottles of wine, or whatever people drank a lot of, on the bill. Usually people stay over several hours, and no one keeps track of everything, so, they just charge you extra, a lot. Something to keep an eye on. For UK people, I'm sure, a lot of you have had people at your door, offering you a free loft insulation top-up. Usually calling themselves loft surveyors. See, it's true that for a while, maybe still, you could get a top-up free, if you were on child tax credits, or have someone over 70, living in the home, and the insulation was below the joists. Thing is, when I used to do this, we 90% of the time, forgot to mention it, and people were footed with a bill, once the roof people turned up. A locksmith, I knew, would rekey locks, using old, worn-down pins, which caused the locks to stop working prematurely. Without the pins being crisp, eventually the lock jams, or the key quits working. He would then await the inevitable call, to replace them, rekey them with good pins, and be good to go. You could make an extra $65 a customer, this way. We never did. I'm certified as a master locksmith, NLA and ALOA. But we repaired a lot of locks, this charlatan fixed. We complained to the NLA and ALOA, and got his bond status revoked. If you get a lock repaired and it doesn't feel as crisp as a new zipper, when you put in the key that first time, they may have pulled this trick. Not a dirty business tactic per se, but always read contracts. If there is something in there that makes you worried, ask. If you think it can be interpreted differently than the other party told you, make sure the contract gets changed. If they are telling the truth, it shouldn't be a problem to change the paragraph to be more precise. I have a knack for imagining worst-case scenarios. Fun life, I know, so I got a lot of contracts on my table, the amount of stuff hidden in legal speak, and basically saying, hey, it's all your fault, and we are the best, even if it's our error, is staggering. You never appreciate this stuff, until something goes wrong, and then you'll be pretty happy that you checked it. If you are going to ask for add-ons with purchasing a vehicle, such as a hitch receiver, check Amazon for part prices, and YouTube for installation difficulty. I had a salesman consult the shop to see how much this would cost for a Grand Caravan. He said it was going to be just over $1,000 after my purchase of the vehicle. Well, I didn't purchase from him, but months later, installed one myself, in less than an hour, in part, due to the vehicle containing bolts already installed in the frame, for a receiver. The name brand receiver only cost me $100. They were going to charge me $900 an hour for labor. Anyone like seafood? 1. Rat Pack that. They'll put the nicest fillets right on top, and give you some smelly, crappy, old fish, tucked away on the bottom of your package. 2. Is it old? Marinated. Old fish? Smells bad? Can't pass it off as nice fresh fish. They'll throw some marinade right on top to mask the issues and send you home with some premium charged, pre-marinated seafood to cook up. 3. Is it old? Can't marinate it? Cook it. Old dead lobsters become steamed dinners to go. Dead soft shell, get a breadcrumb trench coat and fryer trip. Old chocolate tuna and fish scraps, get a boiling soak, and turn into tuna salad. 4. Is it old? Too expensive to cook or marinate? Steak? Soak it in some milk and ice water. I can't recall the enzymes and process, but soaking smelly old fish in milk will yield you some nice odorless fresh fish to sell. 5. Is it old? Too expensive? Can't soak it in milk? Soak it in ice water, salt, lemon juice, and celery stalks. That'll give you nice odorless fresh fish to sell to grandma. 6. Lobsters costing a lot? They'll pack you up some nice lobsters in brown paper bags and double bag it in plastic right out of the tank. How nice. Except for the now waterlogged paper bag you're paying $10 per pound plus for. 7. Frozen crab legs too expensive? Let's coat them in small layers of water and refreeze. That way you can pay $20 per pound plus for ice glazing on your favorite high-end appetizer. 8. Not in season? Who cares? They'll tell you it's local, no matter what. Brush up on seasonality of fresh fish nearest you, and figure out who's full of shit. 9. Fillet fish too expensive? Fake it till you make it. Been selling fish for over 10 plus years, and I'll admit, fillet fish without the skin can be extremely difficult to identify. Don't pay flounder prices for sway fillet, or American red snapper cost for blinders, tails, or other imports. 10. Yay, it's wild, ma'am. Again, know what fish are wild and from where. Wild salmon fillet ain't ever gonna be under $18.19 per pound, and there is basically no Atlantic/Scottish wild salmon. 11. Dead soft shells? Don't worry, we've cleaned them for you. If they're pitching already cleaned crabs, tell them to F off. 12. Lobster roll season. Make 'em cheap. Lobster is insanely expensive, even at its seasonal lowest prices. They'll crush up, split, and cut up cooked shrimp, and imitation meat, mix in some real stuff, and call it 100% lobster salad. That's just a small sample of the sick effed up stuff that happens in the retail or wholesale seafood world. There's plenty more, and tons of substitutions, that fishmongers and scummy businessmen do every day in the fish world. The bestsellers book lists are not actually based on the number of books sold to consumers. They are based on the number of books sold by the distributor. So, if someone like Bill O'Reilly wanted to claim he had the best-selling book in America, his publisher could use a third-party clearinghouse to order 1 million copies of the book at a highly discounted rate, like 0.50 cents a book. The clearinghouse can then turn around and sell those books to Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, etc. at a highly discounted rate, which is why you see certain authors, like Bill O'Reilly, always in the bargain bin. But even if nobody bought those books at the store level, the distributor can still report that 1 million copies of the book have been sold. Customer wants product X from a European manufacturer, but product X from Europe is too expensive. Profit margins will be low, so we just buy product X from some no-name Chinese manufacturer and switch labels. These are high-volume products that contractors send out tenders for. It's an open secret anyways. The contractor person in charge knows all the shit. Everyone vying for the order are ready to hand the person a cut, a bribe basically, for the order. So ultimately, the client is the one getting screwed, but even he knows what shit goes around, because he ends up saving big time by paying Chinese prices for European products, which he goes on to sell to individual customers. And honestly, every European manufacturer has a factory in China. Even if you get a legit European product, it's from China. First Data credit card processors are worldwide. They contract out to dubious companies to trick you into multi-year contracts for card processors you don't need. I specifically said I didn't need a card processor in my home. The salesperson called and said he forgot to get his signature to get the ball rolling. We met long enough for the signature, and a month later, I received a 4-year lease contract with First Data. I explained I didn't approve, and they sent me my agreement I signed. Everything was in someone else's writing, but my signature. Even the part I was supposed to fill out. They even spelled my name wrong. When you put "baby" in front of a product, the price increases by 200 to 600%. Don't bother asking the retail staff what the difference is between a €300 Happy Dreams mattress and the off-brand €50 one. You will not even a believable technobabble argument. No, they go lower than that. Well, it is a baby, so you shouldn't settle for something cheap. Nice playing off of the anxiety of hormone-overloaded mothers-to-be. The retail staff very well how to deal with fathers-to-be that are at least capable of a critical, rational thought. Just ignore him and direct all answers to the mother. Overwhelm her with sudden infant death horror stories, so she wouldn't dare going for anything less than €2,000 crib that monitors breathing and movement. Dad wants to know why that crib doesn't have a power cord for all those sensors. Don't even attempt to humor him by directing it has batteries in his direction. Keep the focus on mom. Tell her that story about the people that bought a bed at IKEA, but their kid died at 3 months old. Can you tell I'm somewhat bitter? I worked for a company that sold items for babies and expecting mothers. They had a return and repair policy. Seems okay at first, but then as an employee, you realize what you're in fact doing is sending a 300 pounds pushchair back to the manufacturer for 3 to 4 weeks. The wording was draconian. What people assumed was that they had 28 days to return their item, when in fact it meant that they could go up to 28 days without a pushchair. They wouldn't let us offer refunds while the original was being repaired, so we had devastated moms crying on the phone all the time, and they almost always ended up forking out another 300 pounds for a new pushchair. It was a pretty effing soul-destroying job, and a really effing dirty business practice, especially when the clientele was pregnant women. Best Buy. With an HD TV like this, you're going to want these gold-plated HDMI cables, which are rated for 720 Hz, $80, and you'll want a router that can take advantage of full 360 degrees panoramic Wi-Fi too. Edit. Also, but unrelated, resellers of CAD software will typically tell you that if you don't sign up for service with them for another year, that you'll probably be forced to relinquish your licenses to the company that makes the software. This is usually not true, especially if you've purchased the seats outright, but they won't tell you that part. Brands. It's all a load of shit. You're literally paying for packaging. Shop at Aldi. As someone who works in branding, this is still something that is so weird to me. How easily a brand, and effective marketing, can persuade people to pay more for the same product, or choose to buy an inferior product, because the brand image is stronger. It's not even just a matter of brand names charging more than no names, but the psychology of branding, in general. Perfect example, one local craft brewery makes pretty crappy beer, but they spend a lot of money on marketing, and have some pretty sick branding, so they do really well, while at the same time, one of the best breweries in the state has almost no branding, and they struggle their ass off. It's just a matter of positioning the brand to look like something people want, and generally, people will choose that over something they're unsure of. And in some cases will pay more for the branded product. In worst case scenarios, like fashion, oftentimes the brand is literally all you are paying for. A crap product, with a social status brand name on it. Drivers of the popular new taxi service, Starts With You, will stall, and hope that you cancel the ride, and they get the easy $5. This happened to me last week, near LAX. 2 drivers tried this, and I made the third guy admit to me that this is happening. One of them texted, saying, "My car broke down, you need to cancel the trip." "Sure, pal, your 2015 BMW just broke down." The third guy said, "It is easier for them to get you to cancel than to slug through LA traffic. If you wait it out on a standoff, they will eventually cancel, but you will be late for your meeting, like I was." Here's one I experienced firsthand today. If you aren't an Amazon Prime member, and you're selecting shipping options for an order, they have a number of options, such as 1-day shipping, 2-day shipping, free 5-day shipping, and then free 2-day shipping, with an Amazon Prime logo next to it. Of course I was not a Prime member, but I figured it was worth a try. Worst case, they would ask me to pay and I would press back and choose a different option. I pressed next, and nothing came up regarding the shipping choice. I thought that was odd, so I checked my bank account, and sure enough, $99 had been removed from my account. I managed to get the charges reversed, but I think it is obscene that they don't have any mention of any charge, or any "Are you sure?" pop-up. I wouldn't say it's sturdy, but it can definitely save your ass, and F other people over. Never delete any email. Ever. And never have an important verbal conversation in business, without following up with an email, documenting, or summarizing it. I literally cannot count the number of times in my career I was accused of doing something, or not doing something, or someone lying to say they never said XYZ. All I do is forward the emails that prove I'm right, and they're wrong. I've watched a lot of people go down in flames as a result. Just last week, I burned someone who tried to blame me for their mistake with email documentation.